what's going on, guys? Snipers signing in to Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 on the map Infinity Isle. Spawning on the right side is the Red Allies player. This is H2O Lictor. And his opponent spawning is the Blue Soviets player. This is Never Smurf, aka Andrey. So Andrey versus Lictor. Lictor, a bit of a veteran to the RA3 scene, at least as far as I can recall. He has been here for quite some time. Not going for a boot camp, as it seems. No, going for that airfield first. Gonna be looking. Could this be a fast T2 into cryocopter? If that's really what's happening here, this will be one refinery. No. He's actually okay. He's walling in his second ref position. So he's actually planning. He did get a Vindicator, so he is actually planning on getting the second power plant, the second ref, and then maybe up to T2 getting that cryocopter. He just decided to open up with the airfield first, not go for any sort of infantry early on, just a scouting warbear. And no infantry means he will not be securing his oil derrick, at least not anytime soon, and a preemptive flat cannon. It's very good play from Andrey. He lets it build until it's about 99% complete, but then pauses it. Pauses it is just in case the enemy aircraft decide to push across the map, and just in case he needs it. He leaves it paused, and then he can still get the full refund in case he decides, say, he actually does not wind up needing it. However, there in that fight, I think that flat cannon might have come in handy, as getting a few extra shots off with the flat cannon might have been all that it might have been the difference maker in getting that dead Vindicator. But now quick expand out to onto the central ridge, getting that, going to be aiming for that third refinery. Probably going to do this. We see allies players do this quite a bit. You expand, or really any faction could really do it. However, it's very prevalent among allied players that go with this first airfield kind of option. You move your MCV up here to the front, and you turn this area more or less into your main staging area, your main staging base. Okay, let's say. You get your barracks, you get your boot camp, you get your armor facility, a couple turrets to protect it from the ridge, get some extra money, and suddenly you have the allied players are a very happy camper. And with the positioning of this airfield being where it was, you can kind of tell that he was planning on that sort of a move anyway. As you say, oh, loses a Vindicator there. That's not good. Does lose a Vindicator, and now something that this is very vulnerable to. Allied players, if they go for this sort of fast or first airfield, getting a lot of Vindicators early on, they are very vulnerable to this sickle prospector harass, because now there's not anything that can be done to really and truly save this prospector. At least not if the sickle or terror drone gets a hold of it. But in terms of a ground response, being forced to build Javelin Troopers, which is the fastest response that you can possibly get, one prospector is very probably going to go down. However, these bullfrogs will at least be prevented from camping the airfield. The Vindicators need to come land, need to come reload and rearm, and the last thing you want is for them to be getting camped by bullfrogs. Expansion from Andrey, taking to the central ridge as well. Going to be snagging himself that third refinery. He's actually sold the boot camp, and they wound up redeploying it. That's not the greatest usage of money I've ever seen. Javelin Troopers going to want to be a little careful, but does lose one Javelin Trooper to the sickle. Now it's in heavy damage mode. It's obviously sickles, they're not amphibious. They would have a very distinctive problem if they tried to go out onto the water. That would involve the fact that they're heavy. And then the Javelin Troopers, thanks to their magical seeking rounds, down goes the sickle. Harassment, more or less over. Terror drone gets inside of the prospector for the central ridge refinery. Will it make it back to the airfield? I don't think so. I think it'll be just out of range. Terror drone just barely didn't make it back. Oh, but this something. Oh, that's very good bomb splitting. Very, very good bomb splitting from Lictor. Takes 4 Vindicators, charges 3 bullfrogs, kills 2 bullfrogs, and manages to get out of there with all of his Vindicators. That is such good bomb splitting. But now, airfield. Andrey has opted for an airfield, has gotten Twin Blades out onto the map. However, with these Javelin Troopers still in the area, you will need to be very careful with those Twin Blades as to not get them needlessly sniped. Twin Blades, very much they're a good investment, but yeah, they're one of those units where you know, by themselves, they're not really too terribly effective. But hold the phone, 2 Vindicators. That round of bombings did not go as well as the first one did. 2 Vindicators for only 1 Bullfrog that time. Going down, that is not the kind of trade that he'd be looking to make, but looks like Lictor is going to be expanding his airfield capacity, that is for sure. Getting that second airfield online. A couple of Apollo fighters taking to the skies, which really is, you can kind of tell that Lictor's he's specifically looking to get that massive allied air force up, because since he just lost 2 Vindicators in the bombing attempt here in Andrey's main base, he could have just built those 2 Apollo fighters here and been done with it if maybe he was looking for more of a ground style approach, or maybe looking to transition to a ground game as opposed to sticking to his guns in the air. However, since with the deployment of that second airfield, you know that Lictor is looking for that really heavy ground game, or not ground game, air game, with maybe a moderate ground force to support, at least here in the mid game, or in the early mid game, and maybe transition further on in the late game to get that bigger, better allied ground force, whether be it the Mirage tanks to hide your other ground units, or that's a dead twin blade. Sadly, it's no honorable discharge for the twin blade. Had it had honorable discharge, that might have been enough to actually kill that prospector. Had an honorable discharge explosion gone off. But now hammer tanks out from Andrey. What kind of answer do we have? Well, it's gonna have to be the Vindicators. There are currently 5 of them out. I believe 2 Vindicators. Is it 2 Vindicators, 6 bombs? I believe it's 6 bombs that it takes to take down a singular hammer tank with the Vindicators. I want to say the number is correct, but so much anti-air. Oh my, oh me, oh my. That is not something that you want to do. And that bombing run was not really worth it at all, I don't think. That is at least 3, 4 dead Vindicators, maybe more. 2 Vindicators remain. Both the Apollo fighters did go down. That is some seriously damaging. That is very, very bad. Lictor decided to stick with his guns in the air game. Well, his guns were just shattered pretty badly, and now an impending ground push is on its way in. But now the Bullfrogs by themselves, they may not be. Oh, that was really nice. The tanks overlapped and did manage to get a double kill there. But then the MiGs do come in. I believe it was a heroic MiG that we saw. Yes, indeed it was. Heroic MiG is out on the map. Heroic Peacekeeper as well. Bullfrogs did wind up going down, but what I was saying was the 2 hammer tanks right here. If you look here, you see that there's kind of 2 craters, or 2 smoldering craters on the map. That's where those two tanks wound up overlapping just enough for the bombs to be splash damaged onto both of them, and that's very good. They're instantly switching this collector to its reactive armor state just to make sure that that the Vindicators did not try to come out and insta snipe it down, instead opting to go for that oil derrick, which he won't be feeling the effects of the dead oil derrick immediately. However, the longer this game goes on, the more time that Lictor is going to have to recoup that advantage that Andrey had at the beginning, because Andrey captured his oil derrick first. The more time that Lictor now goes being up 1-0 in terms of oil derricks, that will start to slowly pay dividends. But 15 cred every 2 seconds, you know, that's not the biggest advantage in the world. You know, it's not quite in the likes of Tiberium Wars getting 25 cred a second. And then a Colourz sub instantly forcing the sell-off of this refinery, getting 250 back on that prospect as well, thanks to that cash bounty upgrade. And Javelin's actually dying to the conscripts. We have a heroic conscript. Oh boy. Yeah, heroic conscript. Oh me, oh my. That's such a lovely thing, seeing the heroic conscripts. Oh, boot camp. Desolator airstrikes, they're a little counterproductive for your infantry. You know, just a little bit. But now the Allied air game, it's back in force. 4 Apollos and 4 Vindicators all taken to the scene. But that is a lot of Bullfrogs. That's 5 Bullfrogs. Not to mention the full airfield of MiGs. So 4 MiGs plus 5 Bullfrogs. Plus this Twin Blade who's going to go forward and do some harassment, as I can only imagine. That is something that is not something that's going to go in favor of the Soviets. But that, Twin Blade, realizing that he done messed up, does wind up going down. He tries to unload that terror drone, but is unsuccessful. Luckily, though, no Vindicators went down from that subsequent bombing run. As you saw us with that Twin Blade, with Andrey's attention going after that Twin Blade, they're trying to spam that F key and get it to land the terror drone back on the ground. That gave a small window of a very small window of opportunity for Lictor to send in his bombers, do some damage, and get on out of there. And just here, one thing Andrey could be doing better. He's got a ton of AA, right? He has a ton of AA, and he could leave, say, the 4 MiGs and say 1 Bullfrog. 4 MiGs and 1 Bullfrog guarding this position, and then leave the 4 Bullfrogs, or leave those remaining 4 Bullfrogs guarding his ridgeline position. Given that the Cryocopter's coming out as well, going ahead and throwing down that cash bounty back on all of his stuff, because he knows, Andrey knows that he's about to lose it. Iron Curtain did wind up going down for Andrey over there. Let's see where exactly he built it. Battle Lab is down as well, so that Battle Lab getting another airfield, actually. Gonna be opting to get those 8 MiGs. That's really the only reason why you build a double airfield. If you're a Soviet, there's no pressing need for Twin Blades at this point. I mean, of course, you could make a harassment squad out of Twin Blades at this point in the game, but you know, it's not really necessary. And plus, with this infantry ball here, you're kind of better off investing in some ground forces. But these cryocopters, though, they're kind of approaching critical mass just a little bit here. These cryocopters that's a Kirov. That is a Kirov airship. That would explain where the infantry is going. The infantry is moving forward, trying to destroy or trying to chip off this Kirov's health bar as much as they can. And Lictor does notice the smoke before the smoke manages to run out, and it does dodge that Badger Bomber's Desolator airstrike. That would have been very, very bad if that Desolator strike had hit. But now this is not good. Oh, Lictor, 2 cryocopters biting the dust. That's not good at all. And that's a lot of MiGs. 7 MiGs. Possibly. Can I count? Yes, that is 7 MiGs. V4 rockets with I believe that's the multi-cluster shell. Yes, indeed it is. Double racks conscript. I'm gonna be getting them Soviet frontliners right out into the field. Apollos, though, need to be careful. Apollos, they need that. I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity from Andrey. He could have pounced. He has the numerical advantage by 3 in MiGs. So despite the fact that the Apollo fighters are 1 for 1 better than the MiGs, you know, that they have splash damage, and the Apollo fighters are notorious for stacking up together whenever they go to engage a target. Kirov's he's still hanging in there. Cryo shot coming down. Is there going to be any follow-up, though? Oh, but the Warbears are charging forward, but not one roar goes off. Not a single roar. Oh, excuse me. Infantry fighting going on. Guardian tanks, massive crushes against the Warbears. Massive crushes. None of the Warbears have been able to successfully get to these Javelin troopers back here. What's left of the Peacekeepers and the Guardian, between the Peacekeeper tanks, the Guardian tanks, and the Cryocopters just freezing everything. The Warbears, they don't have time to get back there. And now the production is very much in jeopardy. It's getting camped. Iron Curtain comes down. He needs to charge. It needs to charge with these units right about now, and that is an instant sign of retreat from. And no, Iron Curtain units cannot be crushed. I had this discussion with someone the other day. We weren't entirely sure the Iron Curtain units could be crushed or not, but however, a Guardian tank was just unable to crush an Iron Curtain unit, or a shrunken Iron Curtain unit. But that Iron Curtain is an instant signal of retreat for Lictor. But that was an insanely good fight taken for Lictor. You know, he pushed forward, was able to get some damage done, you know, able to chip away at the Soviets' army, forced out the Iron Curtain, and considering the gigantically huge pack of Warbears that came charging at Lictor's infantry there during that engagement, all things considered, that did turn out very, very well between the clutch crushing of those 3 remaining Guardian tanks. Oh, these Vindicators. You done messed up, sunshine. Never mind. The MiGs, they decide the Vindicators aren't worth their time. Vindicators, they're just kind of chilling. They're just kind of chilling over the base of Andrey. And now that could have been 3 more dead Vindicators. Had those MiGs actually gone in, actually committed to that fight. Desolator Delta airstrike, a little bit wasted. Or no, that's Desolator Dual airstrike, rather, excuse me. Desolator Delta is the 3-bomber Desolator strike. However, that was a real target of opportunity. I think that Andrey could have capitalized a little bit better. I'm not seeing his Apollo fighter. No, they're the Apollo fighters. Apollo fighters trying to engage that Killerz, starting doing some damage, but those MiGs, there's no answer for the MiGs. And now, I don't think Andrey wants a repeat of what just happened in the last fight. So he's getting a lot of bears. A lot of bears. It's Natasha. Hammer tanks already set up in a really nice concave. Riptide ACVs going for some naval harass. But this Kirov. Oh, this Kirov. That is a dead refinery. That is a dead and deader refinery. Oh, well, actually, no. That may not be a dead refinery. It's going to be a damaged refinery. No, I think he could have saved it. I don't think it was necessary to sell that refinery. I mean, yes, it would have been really weak, but I don't believe that it was really necessary. I think that with how the health bar, or how the bombs from Kirov work against a refinery, is they chop off about like a 1/5. They're about like somewhere between it's like 0.23-ish if we're working out of 1, the numerical value 1 being 100%. It wipes off about 0.23 per bomb, or about 23% of its maximum health per bomb. Well, hold the phone. Warbear's charging forward, not wanting to have the same mistake made as last time. However, that is a gigantic cryoblast, but that is also an Iron Curtain. An Iron Curtain, this Cryogeddon is going to be wasted. It cannot be capitalized on because of the Iron Curtain. That Iron Curtain is allowing these hammer tanks just to push forward, squish things with impunity, just able just to go nuts as it seems. Now that's something new. An Iron Curtain unit can be frozen and can be subsequently destroyed. That is something very much new. That was not exactly known, that was unbeknownst to me, but now a giant Soviet force facing off against what's left of the Allied army. Warbears charging in, Natasha trying to take some range shots, more Vindicators biting dust. They're all getting ripped out of the skies. And Lictor, I think Lictor might have just run out of answers. His main base is now under threat. These Guardian tanks are all he's really got left. And just with the hammer tanks here alone, the Guardian tanks will not be enough, not even counting the flak troopers or Natasha that he's got running around in here somewhere. Actually, I think Natasha might have died. I don't see her quite anywhere right about now. But hold the fight. Is he actually going to hold? Could Lictor possibly hold? The clutch. Just a moment. Pardon me, a little bit of a cough striking me there. But unbelievably, Lictor's actually holding. I think he's actually going to hold. The Cryocopters shrink-raying everything. Shrink-raying the hammer tanks and allowing them to be instantaneously crushed by those Guardian tanks. That is a huge win. Oh, and that's heroic Bullfrog that is now dead. Oh, that's also a really nice pickup there. However, at this point, will it actually matter? He's keeping around his double airfield, but I can't imagine these refineries. These refineries are about to be running out of money very quickly. He needs another refinery. He needs it now, but I think Andrey might have just overdone himself. He might have overextended fully. There's a very good chance that Andrey might have overplayed his hand there with that gigantic ground army of his, because now the ball is firmly in Lictor's court, and he is taking full advantage of it. Konyar does go down, no Crusher Crane, so now Andrey, his days might have just been numbered. He does still have dual racks, does still have his war factory. Leech beaming. Oh, that's not a good idea. Leech beaming off of a critical structure, currently your only structure that you have that would allow you to get back into the game, allow you to rebuild an MCV and continue going. Don't leech beam that when there is a civilian structure completely untouched right here. You can just leech beam that. Or, you know, if you're feeling adventurous, go to the middle of the map and leech beam this observation post, because the OBS towers have got a stupidly ridiculous amount of health. It's very much so a ridiculous amount of health. Then, oh, these hammer tanks. Andrey needs to group up these hammer tanks, because that Iron Curtain ability, it goes off, but some of the tanks from some of Lictor's tanks drove into it as well, including a heroic Guardian tank. And that tank's the one that's taking all of the fire. So pursuing that, it's not really going to work at all. Battle Lab is down. Iron Curtain, oh, the Iron Curtain says it's going to go down. The Iron Curtain's going to go down. The Bullfrogs are not going to be enough to save it. Bullfrogs are not going to be enough. They're chipping away at the Cryocopters. But down goes the Iron Curtain. 2 Cryocopters do wind up going down. The third is likely to follow. Yes, indeed. Down it goes. All of the incursion forces from Lictor are now done and now destroyed. But that Iron Curtain's dead. Then with the Battle Lab destroyed, this is his last Kirov. This is the final Kirov remaining from Andrey. So now what? T2. He has T2. He can make twin blades, hammer tanks, up to Tesla troopers. But really though, this many Guardian tanks, 2 of them heroic Guardian tanks, 3 of them rather being heroic Guardian tanks. That is not very good at all. This one Akula sub, I'm amazed at how Lictor has currently not gone for a fresh refinery yet. One ref is already depleted. The other 2 will be depleted very soon. And that is an insta-snipe down, an insta-freeze and an insta-snipe down on that collector. Rest in pieces, that guy. Depleted refinery. Near depleted refinery. But then here's the difference, though. Andrey has had another entire refinery, it's almost here in just another couple of minutes, almost an entire refinery's worth of 30,000 resources at his disposal, as compared to Lictor, who's had those resources taken away from him very early on in the game. However, now the engagement is going to be happening, but I don't think this is going to go well for the Soviets at all. Andrey, this is not a fight you want to be taking. Buddy, this is not the fight you wanted to be looking for. This Kirov, it's a good idea. I mean, it's a very powerful unit, but it is slow, and it can just be outmaneuvered and outrun by everything on the ground. And now the javelins, the Apollo fighters in the skies, that's a dead pretty much everything from Andrey. And Andrey, that's it. That's the fire sale. Andrey has been defeated. Those last couple of fights, that last fight in particular, really, that was not something that you wanted to take. You know, Tesla Troopers are a very defensive unit. They're not very offensive in nature. They can be used in an offensive role as an offensive purpose. However, you need to make sure they're very properly supported. If they're not supported very properly, or as what happened there, if they're at the front of the pack, you know, that's not something that will translate to a very long-living Tesla Trooper. And those Tesla Troopers, they're expensive, and they're not easy to replace either. But in a fight with that many Guardian tanks, it would have been better to hold your tanks back, or hold your Tesla Troopers back near your hammer tanks, so that when the inevitable freeze or shrink rays came in from the Cryocopters, you could just flip on the EM disruptors, and suddenly you can possibly snare or just at least slow down any of the pursuing Guardian tanks that are looking to get an easy crush off of your now shrunken hammer tanks. Andrey very firmly ahead in the eco game that round. That extra refinery paid some serious dividends. Now, Lictor did get the oil derrick advantage at one point in the game, and that did wind up carrying over until the end. But that's still one oil derrick. Not even close. Doesn't make up to the refinery. I believe the ratio is 2.5 derricks. 2.5 derricks for one refinery is equivalent to one refinery. So I believe that's the equivalency ratio there. Not 100% sure on that. But 23 minutes and 6 seconds, just over 134,000 to 104. That's about a solid 30,000 lead, right about a 30,000 lead. And it comes down to that extra refinery that Andrey was able to get out in the water. That extra refinery made all the difference But still, but then you go back and you look down here, and you have the efficiency ratio for this strongly in favor of Lictor, 1.5 to 0.63. Now, I realize this, some of the Soviet units can't be striving for too high on the efficiency scale, but Lictor, he did have some very, very nice plays with his Air Force early on in the early game and in the mid game and even the early late game. His aircraft made a serious impact on Andrey's ability to either push out or to more effectively repel the continued assaults from Lictor. Andrey did have a little bit of a micro fail, I think, as the MiGs were going after the Vindicators. At one point in the game, they were going after the Vindicators, but then they decided to turn around, presumably to either maybe go protect Killerz or try and catch the Apollo fighters or go after the cryocopters. But for whatever reason, the Vindicators wound up getting out of there scot-free, and they wound up being, just being a little bit more of a nuisance for a little bit longer. I think that actually translated to another dead collector or two, thanks to the freeze harass from either the cryocopters or the support power. And another option Andrey could have had, like split off. When you have that big of a ball of anti-air between his 4 MiGs and his Bullfrogs, before he added on the second airfield, between the MiGs and the Bullfrogs, he'll split off the 4 MiGs and 1 Bullfrog in one spot, and then the 4 Bullfrogs in another spot, or the 4 remaining Bullfrogs in another spot, because it takes 2 Vindicators, even with advanced aeronautics, to fully destroy a Bullfrog in a singular bombing run. So if it takes 2 Vindicators to destroy 2 Bullfrogs, then two in the Bullfrog group, you might lose 1 or 2 Bullfrogs, but at the same time, your odds of getting a counter kill on a Vindicator are actually pretty high. Whereas, if the Vindicators made the mistake of going after the other group, then the MiGs would just kind of tear them in half. But that is another discussion for another day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. And this is Sniper signing out.